Good afternoon, this is Dave Edwards, and I'm running for Congress in the 4th District here in upstate South Carolina. You've probably heard my radio ad over the past few weeks. It's the one that starts with Dr. Panosian saying, "Dave Edwards, the courage to be constitutional. Really make your voice heard on November 2nd. Visit daveedwardsforcongress.com. I do hope you have been able to go to the website to learn about me, but if not, we have the opportunity today to connect. Let me just start by giving some history about myself. My parents are missionaries who have served Christ overseas for the past 25 years, first in Papua New Guinea and now in the West Indies. Prior to that, my dad was a youth pastor in Ohio for about 10 years. I currently have a brother serving in the Marine Corps and a sister who is joining the Navy this month. I also have 2 other siblings. Now as for me, after graduating from Hampton Park Christian School here in Greenville, I went on down to Clearwater Christian College in Florida. I then returned to the upstate to complete my undergraduate work. I earned a degree in business administration with a concentration in accounting from the University of South Carolina upstate. I presently own a small business, and prior to that worked for an accounting firm in downtown Greenville. My wife is a CPA, a certified public accountant, and is also working here in Greenville. We are excited because in just a couple weeks, we'll be having an addition to our family. We are expecting a little girl and have decided to call her Eliza Rose. We are glad for the gift that God has given to us. We currently live in Taylors and are members of North Hills Community Church. Now, as I already mentioned, I'm running for the congressional seat, which encompasses Greenville, Spartanburg, Union, and a small part of Lawrence County. I am an independent constitutional candidate who is with the Constitution Party. Now, since I'm not a Republican or a Democrat, a natural question to ask is if I vote for Dave Edwards, will I split the vote and help a liberal get elected? The answer is no, not here in our district. Based on the last midterm election, if you split the conservative vote in 2, the liberal will still take 3rd place. You have the freedom to vote for the best candidate. To illustrate how conservative and constitutional we are, consider this example. In the 2008 Republican primary, Lindsey Graham lost only 1 county in the whole state. That county was Greenville, and he barely won Spartanburg County by 3,000 votes. I can tell you today that I stood with the vast majority of the 4th District and did not vote for Lindsey Graham, and I can tell you I did not contribute $1,000 to help him get reelected. Now, my closest opponent, Trey Gowdy, is not able to make that claim because he donated $1,000 to help Graham get reelected. He also helped the liberal Democrat Fritz Hollings get reelected by donating $1,000 to him. Our actions speak louder than our words. The 4th District deserves to have the best representative for their conservative and constitutional values. Now, as I've mentioned, I'm currently a small business owner and a former accountant. I have to keep my spending and expenses in order, or else I would go out of business. The federal government has to stop their spending. We need more business people, not lawyers, in office to put a stop to all this spending. I know that you are facing financial difficulties right now. I've not been shaking hands in the halls of power, but I've spent hours and hours knocking on hundreds and hundreds of doors. We all know that it's common sense that you don't spend yourself out of any situation. Would it make any sense for you to take out a loan for another $20,000 so you can go on a spending spree? But that is the kind of thinking emanating from Washington right now, and it is time to stop it. It is also time to stop approving bailout after bailout from both sides. All these stimulus packages by both parties have just given us more debt. For whenever you needed more money, you just printed money on your photocopier at home, you'd be in prison so fast it would make your head swim. So how can a bunch of so-called experts, of whom unlike yourselves, many have failed to pay their taxes, continue to authorize the printing of trillions of pieces of paper with which to flood our financial markets. Now, as I said on my website, daveedwardsforcongress.com, spending our children into generational debt is not an act of compassion. I do not think that any of us want to be responsible for throwing away our heritage and our future liberties. Now, one encroachment on our liberty is the recently passed health care bill, known by many as Obamacare. It must be repealed or never funded so it can't be implemented. Insurance companies are not renewing policies because of this legislation. The Wall Street Journal recently reported that some Blue Cross Blue Shield plans, Aetna, and other insurance companies are going to be raising premiums to cover the cost of extra benefits required under the law. Somebody has to pay for all this. I believe that the federal government needs to step back and not be as involved in healthcare. It is not a constitutional function of the government, and they actually helped to create this mess. My opponent, Trey Gowdy, would like to have the federal government more involved in healthcare. He is already supporting legislation that would provide universal coverage. How is that any different than what we already have with Obamacare? There is also another area that needs to be taken care of: tort reform. There must be serious tort reform because we have doctors and hospitals recommending more and more procedures and tests because they do not want to be sued. In addition, the cost of malpractice insurance that hardly any doctor would dare practice without has gone through the roof due to lawsuits. My opponent, Trey Gowdy, claims to be for tort reform. However, he has received over $115,000 from lawyers and law firms to help him get elected. Do you think he'll be serious about tort reform? I'm not beholden to anyone or any industry because my campaign has been financed by individuals like yourself. I can honestly tell you that I will be serious about tort reform. Now, another major issue that our country is facing is immigration. Where do I stand on immigration? I welcome all who come to this country legally. However, it is deeply unfortunate that our federal government has not enforced the laws that are already on the books. They have not secured our borders, especially the southern border. It is a national security issue. Many individuals are coming from countries that are designated as terrorist countries. The federal government has had decades to secure the border, and they haven't. I support Arizona and their efforts to secure their border. If the federal government was doing its constitutional responsibility, then Arizona would not have needed to take the steps they did. Again, my opponent, Mr. Gowdy, also claims to be securing our borders and cracking down on the illegal immigration. However, at the same time Lindsey Graham was pushing his amnesty bill is also when Mr. Gowdy was helping to get him reelected. Our actions do speak louder than our words. Now, it is quite popular these days for candidates to pull out the Constitution, wave it around, and make a good speech about it. However, they are not transparent with where they stand on the issues. They are simply asking us to trust them. We have done that for too long, and it is a major reason for why we are in this mess. I believe in showing you where I stand and how the Constitution guides my positions on the issues. That is why I have 22 major issues on my website, daveedwardsforcongress.com, for you to review. I don't take your vote for granted, and I want you to know where I stand. In a nutshell, our country is presently on course to follow directly in the path of other formerly great nations and empires that have gone by the wayside. John Adams, a founding father, declared, "Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. The only foundation of a free constitution is pure virtue." And if this cannot be inspired into our people, they may change their rulers and the forms of government, but they will not obtain a lasting liberty. A constitution of government, once changed from freedom, can never be restored. Liberty, once lost, is lost forever. But the good news is that this November, we have an opportunity to start turning this country back around. It is going to take major victories to make that happen. We must also take to heart advice from General Robert E. Lee. He said, "You must study to be frank with the world. Frankness is the child of honesty and courage. Say just what you mean to do on every occasion, and take it for granted you mean to do right. If a friend asks a favor, you should grant it if it is reasonable. If not, tell him plainly why you cannot. You will wrong him and wrong yourself by equivocation of any kind. Never do a wrong thing to make a friend or keep one. The man who requires you to do so is dearly purchased at a sacrifice. Above all, do not appear to others what you are not. There is no more dangerous experiment than that of undertaking to be one thing before a man's face and another thing behind his back. Do your duty in all things. You cannot do more. You should never wish to do less." Now, if you want to maintain the status quo, then I am not your candidate. However, are you ready to channel your frustration and send a strong, loud message to our state, our country, and Washington that we have had enough? Push has come to shove, and you have the opportunity to make history. My victory will shake the halls of power. Your voice will be heard. Can you think of any reason for not joining me? I would appreciate your vote on November 2nd. Please visit daveedwardsforcongress.com. Ask your friends to vote for Dave Edwards, and together we can start to bring our country back.